Captain Kim stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. Through the main viewport, he watched the alien ships move into position around the EDS Discovery. The sleek, curved vessels of the galactic Concordat dwarfed Earth's first diplomatic ship. "Sir, they've completely surrounded us," said Lieutenant Park. Her fingers moved quickly across her console as she monitored the situation. Though her voice remained calm, the tightness around her eyes revealed her concern. "Maintain position," Kim ordered. "We're here on a peaceful mission. Let's not give them any reason to think otherwise." The Discovery represented humanity's greatest achievement. After decades of research, Earth had finally developed faster than light travel. The ship carried Earth's brightest minds and best diplomats, sent to introduce humanity to the wider galactic community. No one had expected to find an established galactic government waiting for them. "They're hailing us again, Captain," Park said, looking up from her station. "This is the third time in the past hour." Kim sighed. "Put them through." The main screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life. The alien that appeared made several crew members shift uncomfortably. Ambassador Talek had skin so thin it was nearly transparent, showing the faint movement of fluids beneath. 6 eyes, arranged in 2 rows, blinked independently of each other. His mouth, when it moved, revealed teeth like polished black stones. "Captain Kim," Talek said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into English. "Your continued hesitation is disappointing." "Ambassador Talek," Kim replied with a small bow of his head. "Earth appreciates the Concordat's interest, but we need time to consider your proposal." "Time," Talek repeated, the word sounding almost like a curse. "Your species has existed for a mere instant by our standards. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding of galactic politics is non-existent. What you need is guidance, not time." Kim felt his jaw tighten, but kept his expression neutral. "Nevertheless, we, humans," Talek interrupted, his upper eyes narrowing. "Let me be clear. The Galactic Concordat has stood for 10,000 years. We have brought order to 100 systems. Your species is primitive by our standards. The Concordat offers protection and guidance as you develop. You will surrender your autonomy and become a protectorate." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. Kim raised a hand to quiet them, then stood from his chair, drawing himself to his full height. "With respect, Ambassador," he said, his voice firm, "Earth joined the stars as equals, not subjects. We must decline your offer." The 6 eyes blinked in what Kim was learning to recognize as surprise. "Decline." Talek's voice rose slightly. "Captain, perhaps I haven't made myself clear. This is not an offer. This is how the galaxy functions. Lesser species know their place." "We understand your position," Kim replied. "But Earth has its own position. We seek friendship with all spacefaring races, but we will not surrender our independence." Talek's upper eyes narrowed to slits. "This is unfortunate." "Then we have nothing more to discuss," Kim said. "We will return to Earth and—" A sudden jolt threw Kim against his chair. The bridge lights flickered, and red warning symbols appeared on every screen. "They've locked weapons on us," Park shouted, her composure finally breaking. "Shields up," Kim ordered. "Evasive maneuvers." "Shields failing," reported the tactical officer. "Their weapons are cutting through our defenses like they aren't even there." Another blast rocked the ship. A support beam came loose from the ceiling, crashing down only meters from where Kim stood. "All hands. Emergency protocols." Kim called out. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them." The third blast hit directly above the bridge. The ceiling collapsed inward, crushing 2 crew members instantly. Flames erupted from damaged power conduits. Through the chaos, Kim caught a final glimpse of Talek on the view screen. The alien was watching with his 6 eyes, his expression impossible to read. "Get to the escape pods," Kim ordered as he helped a wounded ensign to her feet. "Abandon ship." Lieutenant Park grabbed his arm. "Captain, the escape pods won't make it past their weapons. We need tow." Her words were cut short as the ship shuddered one final time. A blinding white light filled the bridge. For a brief moment, Captain Kim felt nothing but intense heat, and then nothing at all. The Discovery erupted in a brilliant flash of light, visible for millions of kilometers. Pieces of Earth's first and finest starship scattered across space, some burning up completely, others left to drift eternally through the void. In their ships, the Concordat observers recorded everything. Data streamed back to their homeworlds, documenting the destruction of humanity's vessel for analysis. 3 days later, in the grand chambers of the Concordat High Council, Ambassador Talek stood before the assembled representatives of 17 advanced species. The circular room hummed with quiet conversations as the members discussed the incident. High Counselor Var, the eldest of the council, raised a long-fingered hand. The room fell silent. "Ambassador Talek," Var said, his voice deep and resonant. "You have returned from your encounter with the new species. Tell us what happened." Talek bowed his head in respect. "High Counselor, members of the council, I regret to inform you that our first contact with the species known as humans ended poorly." He activated a holographic display, showing recordings of the Discovery and its destruction. As instructed, I offered them protectorate status within the Concordat. Their response was unexpected. The recording showed Captain Kim standing defiantly on his bridge. "They rejected our guidance," asked a counselor from the back of the room. "Not only rejected," Talek replied, "but responded with aggression. When informed that protectorate status was not optional, they attempted to flee and prepared weapons." This was not what had happened, but Talek knew the humans could not contradict his account. "We had no choice but to neutralize the threat," he continued. "Their primitive vessel posed no challenge. The entire incident was regrettable but necessary." High Counselor Var nodded slowly. "And what of their homeworld?" "This Earth. We have its coordinates," Talek said. "I recommend we dispatch an annexation fleet immediately. The humans must learn their place in the galactic order." "Agreed," Var said after a moment of consideration. "Prepare the fleet. The humans will become a protectorate of the Concordat, whether they wish it or not." As the council dissolved into discussion of the logistics of annexation, none of them considered what the humans might do in response. After all, what could a primitive species possibly do against the might of the Concordat? Far away, the final automated transmission from the Discovery reached Earth, carrying news of the Concordat's treachery, in orbit and on the ground. Humanity received its first lesson in galactic politics, and they began to prepare. The vast alien ship hung in space at the edge of Earth's solar system. Its blue-green hull shimmered in the distant sunlight, surrounded by a dozen smaller vessels. 3 years had passed since the destruction of the EDS Discovery, and the Concordat annexation fleet had been waiting for Earth's response to their ultimatum for nearly 6 months. High Commander Lee walked along the bridge of his flagship, the Concordat vessel Inevitable Harmony. His tall, slender frame moved with the grace typical of his species. Unlike most of the Concordat races, Lee's people resembled humans in basic shape, though his silvery skin and completely black eyes marked him as alien. "Report," he ordered, stopping before the main view screen that showed the distant yellow star that humans called their sun. His aide, Officer Tav, approached with a data tablet. "Still nothing from the humans, Commander," he said, his four-fingered hand extending the device. "They've gone completely silent since we arrived." Lee took the tablet and flicked through the information. No communications, no defensive preparations, nothing. "No, Commander," Tav replied. "Our deep scouts report increased activity within their asteroid belt, but nothing that appears threatening. Just mining operations and some small construction facilities. And their planetary defenses. Minimal. Some orbital platforms, a small fleet of sublight vessels. Nothing that could challenge even one of our support ships, let alone the full annexation fleet." Lee handed the tablet back to his aide. Strange. The diplomatic team reported that they were stubborn and defiant. I expected more resistance. Perhaps the destruction of their ship taught them a lesson, Tav suggested. They'd had 3 years to consider their position. Perhaps, Lee said, though doubt crept into his voice. Have the scouts detected any unusual energy signatures? Any sign they might be developing more advanced technology? Nothing beyond their expected development curve, Commander. They appear to be a standard Level 3 civilization, perhaps on the verge of reaching Level 4. Impressive for their age, but no match for the Concordat. Lee nodded slowly. They know they cannot stand against us. That must be it. He straightened his back, decision made. Tell the fleet to prepare for the final approach to their homeworld. We'll begin the formal annexation process in 3 days. Yes, Commander, Tav said with a small bow. I'll inform the fleet immediately. As his aide moved away to relay the orders, Lee continued to stare at the view screen. Something about the situation bothered him. In his centuries of service to the Concordat, he had overseen dozens of annexations. Most species fought back, at least symbolically. Some tried negotiation. None had ever gone completely silent. Unusual, he murmured to himself, but ultimately irrelevant. Far from the watching eyes of the Concordat fleet, deep within the frigid outer reaches of the solar system, humanity had been working. The Kuiper Belt, a vast region of icy bodies beyond Neptune's orbit, had been transformed over the past 3 years. What had once been uninhabited space now housed the largest construction project in human history. Concealed by electronic countermeasures and the natural debris of the region, a massive shipyard extended for kilometers through the vacuum. Admiral Hand stood at a viewport in the control center, his breath creating small clouds in the cold air. Despite the discomfort, he had ordered the environmental systems kept at minimum levels to reduce energy signatures that might be detected. The station was dark, lit only by essential systems and the glow from screens and equipment. Through the viewport, he could see humanity's answer to the Concordat. It filled his view despite being kilometers away. A massive vessel unlike anything humanity had built before. The ship was black as space itself, its surface broken only by weapon ports and sensor arrays. Its shape was vaguely reminiscent of a sword, long and sleek, with sharp edges and a pointed bow. Along its hull, faint blue lines pulsed with energy, the only indication that the giant was alive, and not just a shadow against the stars. "Beautiful, isn't she?" a voice said from behind him. Han turned to see Director Song approaching. The scientist looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes and her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She had been working on the project since the beginning, pushing both herself and her team to achieve what many had thought impossible. "Status report," Han ordered, his voice carrying the authority that had made him the unanimous choice to lead Earth's response force. Song handed him a tablet. "The EDF retribution is at 98% completion, Admiral. Weapon systems are online and tested. The FTL drive has been calibrated beyond Concordat specifications, just as you requested." Han took the tablet, scanning through the information with practiced efficiency. The retribution represented not just humanity's greatest achievement, but also its greatest gamble. After the destruction of the Discovery, Earth's nations had united with a single purpose: to ensure such an attack would never happen again. They had pooled resources, set aside old rivalries, and worked in secret. The retribution was the result: a warship built using what they had learned from examining the wreckage of smaller Concordat vessels and combining it with humanity's own unique approach to warfare. "And the weapon systems?" Han asked, looking up from the tablet. "All operational," Song replied with a hint of pride. "The main gravitational disruptors exceed our projections by 20%. The adaptive shield technology has been successfully integrated with our point defense systems." Han nodded, studying the sleek lines of the massive battleship through the viewport. "And the crew?" "Fully trained, Admiral. The best Earth has to offer. 600 of our finest, selected from every nation. They'd been training in simulators for the past 2 years. They're ready. Han handed the tablet back to Song. And the other systems. The electronic warfare suite is fully operational. The Concordat won't know what hit them. Song paused, then added, the infiltration teams we sent to their outer colonies were successful. We know more about their technology than they think we do. Good, Han said, turning back to the viewport. And they still believe we're doing nothing. Yes, Admiral. Our decoy operations in the asteroid belt have drawn their attention. Their scouts report exactly what we want them to see. A frightened civilization preparing mining operations, hoping to appease their new overlords. A small smile crossed Han's face. Then we're ready. The Concordat believes our silence means surrender. They're about to learn differently. Song hesitated. Admiral, I should warn you. While the Retribution exceeds Concordat technology in several areas, we're still outnumbered. Their annexation fleet has 13 vessels. Numbers aren't everything, Director, Han replied. The Concordat has existed for thousands of years without facing a serious military challenge. Their tactics are predictable. Their crews lack combat experience. And we have 3,000 years of human warfare to draw upon. Song added, understanding his point. Han nodded. Exactly. We may be new to space, but we're not new to war. He touched a control on his wrist device. Bridge, this is Admiral Han. Begin final preparations. We launch in 24 hours. Yes, Admiral, came the prompt reply. Han turned away from the viewport. Tell your teams they've done excellent work, Director Song. History will remember what they've accomplished here. What we've all accomplished, Song corrected gently. Han allowed himself another small smile. Indeed. Now, let's go show the Concordat what happens when you underestimate humanity. As they walked away from the viewport, the massive shape of the Retribution loomed behind them, a silent promise to a galaxy that would soon learn that humans didn't surrender. They responded. Nexus Station hung in space like a glittering jewel. The massive space station served as the Concordat's central trading hub, where 17 alien species came together to exchange goods and information. Its spiral shape contained countless docking bays, markets, and meeting halls. On a normal day, over 10,000 beings walked its corridors. Today was about to become very different. Station Controller Pell moved his six-fingered hands across the control panels, monitoring the steady flow of ships arriving and departing. After 50 years at his post, he found comfort in the routine. Merchants arrived, traded their goods, and left. Diplomatic vessels came and went. The great machine of Concordat commerce continued smoothly. Sir, we have 37 arrivals scheduled in the next hour, his assistant reported. Good, Pell replied, not looking up from his screens. Make sure docking bay 17 is clear for the Vorlon delegation. They always bring extra ships. The assistant nodded and turned away. A moment later, every alarm on the control deck began blaring at once. What's happening? Pell demanded, rising from his chair. Unknown, sir, called one of the sensor operators. All detection systems are showing. A blinding flash of light cut through space just beyond the station's defense perimeter. The fabric of space itself seemed to tear open. Something's emerging from hyperspace. The station controller announced, his voice rising. It's massive. On the main view screen, they watched as a ship appeared from the hyperspace tear, but calling it a ship felt inadequate. This was a behemoth, a leviathan of metal and energy that dwarfed even the largest Concordat battlecruiser. The vessel was black as night, absorbing the light from nearby stars rather than reflecting it. Its hull design was unlike anything in Concordat records, sharp and aggressive, with what were clearly weapon ports lining its sides. Blue energy pulsed along its surface like blood through veins. Size comparison. Pell ordered, his professional calm beginning to crack. Sir, it's nearly 3 kilometers long. The sensor operator replied in disbelief. Mass readings are off the charts. Identify it, Pell demanded. Check all Concordat registries. No matches in any database, came the reply. This ship doesn't belong to any known species. The strange vessel moved with surprising grace for its size, positioning itself directly in front of Nexus Station. Its presence was like a predator among prey. Stillness that promised violence. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "They're hailing us." Pell hesitated only for a moment. "Put them through." The main screen changed to show the bridge of the unknown vessel. Pell felt his heart skip a beat. The beings on the screen were unmistakably human, a species the Concordat had dismissed as primitive just 3 years earlier. At the center stood a tall human in a dark uniform adorned with symbols of rank. "This is Admiral Han of the Earth Defense Force Vessel Retribution," the human said, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. 3 years ago, your Concordat destroyed our diplomatic ship without provocation and threatened our planet. You misunderstood our silence for submission. It was preparation. Pell found his voice. "Human vessel, this is a peaceful trading station. We have thousands of civilians aboard. Whatever your grievance with the Concordat, we are well aware of who is aboard your station." Admiral Han interrupted. "No harm will come to civilians today. Our dispute is with your leadership." A junior officer rushed to Pell's side. "Sir, the defense fleet is mobilizing," he whispered urgently. On a secondary screen, Pell could see the station's protection fleet. 12 sleek Concordat vessels, moving to surround the human ship. It should have been reassuring. Those 12 ships had enough firepower to reduce most planets to ash. Yet the humans showed no concern. "Your vessels are preparing to attack," Admiral Han observed. "That would be a mistake." Before Pell could respond, alarms sounded again. Every weapon system aboard the defense fleet ships suddenly went offline. Engine controls failed. Communication systems died. "What's happening?" Pell demanded. "The human ship just released some kind of pulse," the sensor operator said, shock evident in his voice. It's completely disabled our fleet without firing a shot." On the screen, Admiral Han's expression remained unchanged. "We could destroy your entire defense fleet," he continued. "Instead, we offer this demonstration as a courtesy. The Concordat will meet with Earth representatives as equals, or we will dismantle your alliance system by system." The control room fell silent. The threat was clear, and clearly within the humans' power to carry out. I must contact the High Council," Pell managed to say. "You have 12 hours to arrange the meeting." Admiral Han replied. "We will remain here. Any aggressive move against this vessel will be met with immediate response." Han out. The screen returned to the view of the massive human ship. "Send an emergency communication to the High Council," Pell ordered, his voice shaking. Priority 1. In the grand chamber of the Concordat High Council, emergency lights pulsed. The 17 representatives of the ruling species had been summoned from their beds, their meals, their various activities. Now they sat in stunned silence as they watched the footage from Nexus Station. Ambassador Talik paced before the main display, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "How?" he demanded of no one in particular. "How did they build something so advanced? This is impossible. 3 years ago, they were barely able to achieve faster-than-light travel." High Counselor Var's voice cut through the chaos. "It seems we severely underestimated the humans," he said, his ancient voice carrying despite its softness. "Their technology exceeds our projections by centuries." Talik continued, ignoring the rebuke in Var's tone. "Their ship's capabilities shouldn't be possible for a species at their development stage." A small gray-skinned figure stepped forward from the group of analysts at the side of the chamber. This was Rin, the Concordat's leading xenobiologist. "We made a fundamental error in our assessment," Rin said, her voice high but steady. "We judged the humans purely on their technological development without considering their other characteristics." "Explain," Var ordered. "We underestimated them, Ambassador," Rin said, turning to Talik. Humans have been perfecting the art of warfare throughout their history. Unlike most species in the Concordat, who developed technology during extended periods of peace, humans advanced while constantly fighting each other. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's historical timeline. In just the past 200 years, they fought dozens of major wars. Their weapons and tactics evolved at an astonishing rate. Where it took the Vax 1,000 years to move from basic projectiles to energy weapons, humans did it in less than a century. But the ship, another counselor interjected. That level of technology. They reversed engineered it, Rin explained. The scout ships we lost near Earth after the initial contact, the humans must have captured them, studied them. They took our technology, improved it, and weaponized it in ways we never imagined. Are you saying this primitive species outperformed our best engineers in just 3 years? Talik asked incredulously. Yes, Rin replied simply. Because they think differently. The Concordat has existed for 10,000 years of relative peace. We developed technology for commerce, for comfort, for exploration. Humans developed technology to defeat enemies. They gave them the pieces, and they assembled a weapon beyond our understanding. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. What do we do? Someone finally asked. High Counselor Var rose slowly from his seat. We do as they ask. We meet with them as equals. That's preposterous. Talik exclaimed. We cannot allow a single show of force tow. Did you not see what their ship did to our defense fleet? Var interrupted, his voice hard now. They disabled 12 of our finest vessels without firing a single shot. If they wanted destruction, Nexus Station would already be space debris. He turned to face the full council. We have misjudged these humans from the beginning. First, we thought them primitive and weak. Now we see they are dangerous beyond measure. I will not risk Concordat lives because of pride. Var gestured to his aide. Prepare a delegation. We will meet with the humans and hear their terms. As the council began to discuss the details, Rin quietly updated her report on the human species. Under threat assessment, she deleted the previous rating of minimal and replaced it with a single word, extreme. High Commander Gratha stood on the bridge of the Concordat flagship, the Eternal Wisdom. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back as he watched the massive view screen. The sight before him was both impressive and troubling. The Concordat war fleet stretched across space in a formation that had been perfected over thousands of years. 300 ships from all 17 member species had gathered in a show of force that would have made any rational opponent surrender immediately. At the center of their formation floated a single black ship. The human vessel Retribution looked small compared to the fleet surrounding it, but Gratha knew better than to be fooled by appearances. All ships report ready, High Commander, his first officer reported. The formation is complete. Gratha nodded, his gray skin reflecting the blue lights of the command console. Open a channel to the human vessel. The communications officer worked quickly. Channel open. Sir, this is High Commander Gratha of the Concordat Unified Fleet, he announced, his voice firm. Human vessel, you have violated Concordat space and threatened our citizens. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. The response was immediate. A human female appeared on the screen. She wore a dark uniform with gold markings on the shoulders. Her face showed no fear. This is Admiral Choi of the Earth Defense Force vessel Retribution, she replied calmly. Your fleet is impressive, Commander, but unnecessary. We came to negotiate, not to fight. Negotiations happen after surrender, Gratha stated. You have 1 minute to comply. Admiral Choi smiled slightly. I'm afraid that won't be possible, but please, feel free to try whatever you think best. The screen went dark. Gratha turned to his tactical officer. Status of the human vessel. Weapons powered but not targeted, the officer reported. Their shields are active but not at full strength. They don't appear concerned, sir. They should be, Gratha said. Order all ships to move to attack position Alpha. Let's show these humans what real power looks like. The Concordat fleet began to move, tightening their circle around the Retribution. The formation was designed to allow maximum firepower from all ships while minimizing the target area for return fire. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Choi watched the alien fleet's movements with clinical interest. The massive view screen showed hundreds of ships moving in perfect coordination. It surrounded us. Commander Bay reported from the tactical station. I count 312 ships, multiple weapon types, all powering up targeting systems. Choi nodded, just as we expected. They're using their standard encirclement tactic. Predictable. The bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. Unlike the ornate command centers of the Concordat ships, the Retribution's bridge was practical. Each station was designed for maximum effectiveness rather than comfort or appearance. They'll fire in coordinated salvos, Choi said, moving outward from their command ships. Tactical, identify their firing sequence and prepare countermeasures. Already done, Admiral. Commander Bay replied. Defense systems are tracking all vessels. Choi leaned forward in her command chair. Deploy the gravity anchors. Gravity anchors deploying. The weapons officer confirmed. Across the hull of the Retribution, specialized emitters activated. These devices, created by combining Concordat gravitational theory with human weapons technology, created localized distortions in space itself. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The nearest 50 Concordat vessels suddenly found themselves unable to maneuver. Their engines strained against invisible forces that held them in place like insects in amber. On the Eternal Wisdom, alarms blared. What's happening? Graftha demanded. Some kind of gravitational weapon. The science officer reported, her voice rising with panic. It's created localized distortion fields around our forward ships. They can't move. Impossible, Graftha said. Such technology is purely theoretical. No one has ever. Sir, they're targeting our primary battle group, the tactical officer interrupted. Graftha turned back to the view screen just as the Retribution fired. What happened next defied everything he knew about space combat. The human ship's weapons didn't fire in the expected pattern of continuous beams or projectile volleys. Instead, precise pulses of energy shot out, each targeting a specific system on each Concordat vessel. Engines, weapons, communications, each hit with surgical precision. First volley complete, reported Commander Bai on the Retribution's bridge. 37 targets disabled. No hull breaches, no casualties. Admiral Choi nodded. Good. Now their second response group will move to fill the gap. Prepare for their counterattack. As predicted, the second wave of Concordat ships moved forward, their weapons firing in a dazzling display of energy beams and projectiles. Incoming fire, Bai announced calmly. Adaptive shields responding. The space around the Retribution shimmered as its defensive systems activated. Unlike traditional shields that tried to block all incoming fire with the same energy field, the Retribution's shields adapted to each weapon type, creating specific countermeasures for each. Energy beams were absorbed and redirected. Projectiles were caught in microgravitational fields and suspended harmlessly. Missiles were detected and neutralized before they could detonate. Shields holding at 92%, Bay reported. System learning from attack patterns. Efficiency increasing. Choi's expression remained calm. Second volley. Demonstration targets only. Again, the Retribution fired. This time, its weapons targeted the attacking vessels, disabling their offensive capabilities with precise hits that caused no casualties. On the Concordat flagship, High Commander Graftha received reports with growing horror. 32 more ships disabled. Sir, his tactical officer reported. The human vessel is targeting specific systems, engines, weapons arrays, power cores. They're disabling our ships without destroying them. How? Graftha demanded. Their targeting systems shouldn't be this precise. And these gravitational weapons, we theorized their possibility, but never built them. His tactical officer, a veteran of many conflicts, appeared shaken. The officer had 4 eyes, all blinking rapidly in distress. "They fight like no species we've encountered," the officer said. "The humans don't just use technology. They understand warfare. While we've had centuries of peace, they've been honing battle strategies against themselves." Another officer added, "And their vessel adapts. Our weapons were effective initially, but their shields are already harmonizing to our frequencies. Each time we hit them, they learn and improve their defenses." Gratha stared at the massive human battleship on his view screen. In all his years serving the Concordat, he had never faced anything like this. "We've awakened something terrible," he whispered. The Retribution fired a 3rd time. More Concordat ships lost power, drifting helplessly in space. "Sir," his first officer said, "we need to withdraw. We've lost nearly a 1/3 of our fleet without inflicting any significant damage." Gratha knew the officer was right, but pride kept him from giving the order. The Concordat had never retreated from a battle in recorded history. The communications officer looked up from her station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it on screen," Gratha ordered. Admiral Choi appeared again. This time her expression was one of professional detachment. "High Commander," she said, "this demonstration has gone far enough. We could continue disabling your vessels, but that would serve no purpose. The Concordat must understand that humanity cannot be treated as a primitive species to be conquered." Gratha fought to keep his voice steady. "What do you want?" "The same thing we wanted from the beginning. Recognition as equals, a place at the table, and assurance that no human vessel or colony will ever be threatened again." The High Commander looked around his bridge. His crew awaited his decision. The pride of the Concordat hung in the balance. "Very well," he said finally. "I will relay your terms to the High Council." Admiral Choi nodded. "A wise decision, Commander. We will stand down our weapons as a show of good faith, but we will maintain our defensive systems." After the transmission ended, Gratha's second-in-command approached him. "Commander," she said quietly, "how did they do this? How did a species we considered primitive 3 years ago defeat our entire fleet?" Gratha looked at the disabled ships floating in space around them. "We judged them by the wrong standards," he replied. "We measured their advancement by how long they've had space travel, by the elegance of their architecture, by the peace of their society." He shook his head slowly. "We should have measured them by how well they fight." The Grand Council chamber of the Concordat was filled with nervous energy. Representatives from all 17 member species sat in tiered seats that formed a perfect circle. At the center stood a speaking platform where, for 10,000 years, the business of ruling much of the galaxy had been conducted. Today, that platform was empty. All eyes were fixed on the massive doors at the far end of the chamber. Supreme Counselor Joe sat in the highest seat, his aged face showing the strain of recent events. As the oldest and wisest of the Concordat leaders, he had guided the Alliance through many challenges, but none like this. "They're here," an aide whispered to him. Joe nodded and rose to his feet. The chamber fell silent as the great doors slid open. Admiral Han entered first, his dark uniform crisp and his posture perfect. Behind him came 5 other humans, 3 men and 2 women, dressed in formal diplomatic attire. The human delegation seemed impossibly calm for a species that had just upended the galactic order. Joe noticed that they carried no weapons, yet somehow this made them seem more dangerous, not less. They moved with quiet confidence across the chamber floor, their footsteps echoing in the silence. As they reached the center platform, Admiral Han stepped forward, while his companions remained a respectful distance behind him. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with several council members before finally focusing on Joe. For a long moment, no one spoke. This first official meeting between humanity and the Concordat Council would set the tone for all future relations. Joe broke the silence. "On behalf of the Concordat Council, I welcome the representatives of Earth. His translator converted his words into perfect human English. Admiral Han gave a small bow. On behalf of the United Earth government, I thank you for your welcome. Joe descended from his high seat to stand on equal footing with the human. It was a symbolic gesture not lost on the watching council members. The Concordat acknowledges Earth as a sovereign power, Joe stated formally, and offers formal apologies for our past actions. We seek peaceful relations. Han nodded once. Earth accepts your apology and likewise seeks peace. His voice carried throughout the chamber without needing amplification. But understand this, we will never be subjugated. Joe spread his hands in a gesture of openness. The events of recent days have made that abundantly clear, Admiral. Your military capabilities are impressive. One ship changed the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The human admiral's expression remained neutral. The retribution is merely the first. Earth has completed 3 more battleships of similar design. A murmur of alarm spread through the chamber. Some council members rose to their feet, while others whispered urgently to their aides. Han raised a hand. This isn't a threat, he continued. It's a reality you must accept. Humanity doesn't seek dominion over others. We only demand respect. Joe studied the human's face, looking for signs of deception, but finding none. If not conquest, then what does Earth want? A place in the galaxy, Han replied. Freedom for our people to explore, to trade, to establish colonies, and assurance that what happened to the Discovery will never happen again. Joe nodded slowly. These terms are reasonable. But the Concordat would ask something in return. We're listening. Your technology, Joe said, particularly your defensive systems. There are threats in this galaxy beyond our controlled space, species even more aggressive than yourselves. For the first time, Han showed a hint of a smile. We anticipated this request. Earth is willing to share certain technologies. Medical advances, clean energy systems, transportation improvements. But our military innovations will remain secure. Joe considered this. Even partial sharing would be valuable. We thought you might say that, Han replied. So we have a counter-proposal. Instead of giving you our weapons, we offer our protection. The chamber grew quiet again as the implications of this offer sank in. Over the next 6 hours, the humans and the Concordat negotiated the details of a treaty unlike any in the Alliance's long history. The final agreement established Earth as a new power in the galaxy, not a conqueror, but a shield. Humanity would remain independent, free to expand within agreed boundaries. In exchange, Earth's battleships would help protect Concordat worlds from outside threats. The humans would share some technologies but keep their military innovations secure. As Admiral Han pressed his thumb to the treaty document, finalizing Earth's commitment, he spoke words that would be remembered for generations. Humanity's history of warfare has a purpose after all. We will be the guardians of peace in a galaxy that has forgotten how to fight. 5 years later, his words proved prophetic. The first signs came from the Outer Rim. Reports of missing ships and destroyed outposts. Then came refugees with stories of an unstoppable enemy. The Concordat Council was slow to respond, debating actions while the threat grew closer. The Scourge, as survivors called them, moved through Concordat space like a plague, destroying everything in their path. Their biology was silicon-based, their technology organic and strange. They communicated through electrical pulses and seemed to have a single purpose: consumption of all resources, organic and inorganic alike. By the time the Concordat acknowledged the full threat, 3 outer systems had fallen. The fourth, Bilray, was home to 2 billion citizens. When the Scourge fleet appeared at the edge of the Bilray system, the local defense forces prepared for evacuation, knowing they could not stop the invaders. But they were not alone. The EDF Protector, third in the line of Earth's battleships, was already in position. Larger than the Retribution and incorporating 5 years of additional innovations, it hung in space between the approaching Scourge and the vulnerable planet. Admiral Kang stood on the Protector's bridge, watching the enemy fleet approach. There were hundreds of Scourge ships, organic-looking vessels that pulsed with eerie light. "They're not responding to communications," his first officer reported. Kang nodded. "I didn't expect them to." Tactical analysis. "Their ships are numerous but individually less powerful than ours. Their strength is in coordinated attacks and rapid reproduction of damaged vessels." "Just as the reports indicated," Kang said. He turned to face his crew. "This is what we prepared for. This is why humanity built these ships." He remembered Admiral Han's words at the treaty signing years earlier. "We will be the guardians of peace in a galaxy that has forgotten how to fight." "Deploy all defensive systems," Kang ordered. "Prepare the gravity weapons and launch fighter squadrons 1 through 6. The Protector came alive, its systems humming with power. From its launch bays, smaller craft emerged, human fighters piloted by Earth's best. The Scourge ships approached, confident in their superior numbers. Their hive mind had encountered many species, and all had fallen. They expected this strange vessel to flee like the others. They had no idea what was coming. The fighters struck first, moving in patterns that confused the Scourge's predictive systems. The smaller craft darted between the alien vessels, deploying precisely targeted weapons that disrupted the organic technology interface the Scourge relied on. Then the Protector itself engaged. Its gravity weapons created distortions that tore Scourge ships apart. Its adaptive shields absorbed and redirected the aliens' strange energy weapons. The battle lasted 14 hours. When it ended, the Scourge fleet was in retreat, reduced to less than a third of its original size. On Delrai, billions of citizens watched in awe as the sky lit up with the distant flashes of battle. When it was over, they saw the massive human ship moving into orbit, its black hull scared but intact. In the Concordat Council chamber, Supreme Counselor Joe received the report of the Protector's victory with profound relief. "It seems," he said to his advisors, "that our treaty with Earth was even wiser than we knew." One of the younger counselors spoke up. "But what if the humans decide to turn against us one day? With their warships and their skill in battle, could we stop them?" Joe considered the question carefully before answering. "I met Admiral Han on the day we signed our treaty," he said finally. "He told me something I've never forgotten. He said, 'The true measure of power is not how hard you can strike, but how much you can protect.'" Joe looked out the window at the stars beyond. "The humans could have conquered us 5 years ago. Instead, they chose to shield us. I believe that tells us everything we need to know about what kind of power they wish to be." Across